Welcome back to Freedom Free for All Roundtable, the segment of our show where you, the viewer, get to participate on our live chat. You can ask questions, you can ask our hosts anything, and we have the renowned climatologist, Dr. Tim Ball, coming on to our show to discuss his report on his debate that he had with Elizabeth May, Green Party leader. So, you guys excited about this?
Oh, yeah, I'm really excited.
So we're going to run this promo, and when we come back, we're going to call Tim Ball. So get your questions ready, because we'll be hitting the live chat, and your questions will be asked to Tim Ball. Stay tuned.
Go.
Okay, so welcome back. We have Dr. Tim Ball on the air. Tim, say hello to our viewers.
Hello, viewers. Thanks for the opportunity, Josh.
Okay, perfect. So we brought you on because, as many people know, you had this huge debate on local radio today, C-FAX 1070, with Elizabeth May.
Yes, I did, and very, very frustrating in that it's difficult when you're restrained to tell the truth.
Yeah, we heard that. I think we all heard the interview today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the whole thing, but I was working.
We're going to have the whole interview up on our website, so
it's live on there now.
It's live on there now. Perfect.
Excellent.
Good.
So what do you feel? How do you think the debate went?
Well, I felt very good. There was a lot of feedback, and there were a lot of things. Time is always a restraint. And as I said a few minutes ago, that when you're restrained to only the truth. But I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to make a few points that ordinary people would understand. So, when I say, look, their definition of climate change was only human causes, therefore it restricted what they were looking at. Most people think they're looking at all climate change. And then I read that introduction by a scientist who'd never read the reports, as most people haven't.
Yeah.
He said he just accepted it as truth. And then when he went and read it, he couldn't believe what he was reading. So I thought just to get a few points across, get people thinking. The other critical one, Josh, is the assumption that a CO2 increase causes a temperature increase when that doesn't occur in any record whatsoever.
Yeah,
right.
So just a few points like that.
So do you think you changed your mind at all, Tim?
Oh, no. I mean, at the end there, she's sort of saying, "Oh well, I'm not making any money off of this, blah blah blah." Well, neither am I, but I'm not in politics either.
Yeah.
I'm not using it for a political agenda, and of course that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that was underlying what I was trying to say was, look, people have taken this climate science and used it for a political agenda, and therefore they're just going to pick the facts, or not even the facts, but the things that suit their argument, and that's the problem.
It should seem obvious to anyone who's paying attention that this is the catalyst for the communist agenda, which we're looking at. We're looking at an excuse to lay down draconian communist laws to restrict people and their freedoms, and that's the entire purpose of this scam.
Well, I didn't get into that because that was on the political side of it. Yeah. What I wanted to show was that the science and how they were using it simply just didn't justify what they were claiming politically. But you're absolutely right. And of course, one of the things that you have to realize is they needed an issue that was global in its impact. I mean, if the old sky is falling, it's going to affect everybody and threaten everybody, and therefore the climate issue, and that's the other part of it. They say, well, no one nation can deal with this, therefore we must have one world government run by us, and a carbon tax to pay for it all. That's really that's the agenda.
So I think we have a few questions from our viewers. Yep. Greg, could you read a question for us?
Absolutely. So, Dr. Ball, this is Greg Hill. I listened to the show today. I thought you did wonderfully. I was smiling throughout the debate, and I thought that you definitely came out on top. And Elizabeth May was scattered and frazzled at the end, and you looked great. She looked terrible at the end, and you stuck to the you stuck to the points of the CO2 agenda, and you came across very knowledgeable, and this is just my feedback. I really enjoyed it. So a question from one of our viewers, Josh Sigurdson, asks, what do you think about people like Ted Turner and Bill Gates promoting eugenics or depopulation as a cure-all for global warming?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because you look at all of these people. Now, Maurice Strong, of course, who's now hiding out in China because the American government want him. Bill Gates, another one. It's almost like these people make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But somehow they then feel guilty about it, and somehow they've got to buy some sort of legacy, and so they're going to save the world. Turner is the classic example of this, and of course Turner donated $1 billion to the UN to promote these kinds of things. And one of the people that Turner hired to go to the UN was Senator Timothy Worth, and Worth was the guy that set up the original hearing in Washington in 1988, at which James Hansen said, he was 99% certain that humans were causing global warming. Timothy Worth was the guy that organized all of that. So there's something about making money, trying to buy some sort of legacy, and almost a guilt about it. And then, of course, the absolute contradiction that they are telling other people, well, we made money, but you shouldn't make it. It's not good for you to make it.
It's like they got to pay their carbon sins.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly a very good view of it. Yes.
Okay, I think we got another question, Greg.
We do. Yeah. So this one's from Adam, and he asks, do political leaders know human-caused global warming is bunk and just play along? Is that why they don't really take serious action, but they do a lot of BS talking?
That's a very good question. And I think that we're still at the point where the politicians, first of all, they don't understand the science of it. Second, as I talked about on the program, the IPCC is run by the bureaucrats from all the weather offices across the world. And so if your bureaucrat in your weather office, like Environment Canada, is telling you this is the science, you kind of got to listen to your own bureaucrat. So there's that problem. The other problem that they have is this, despite the fact that the polls, for example, a United Nations poll of 6 million people showed that the global warming and climate change was 16th on their list of concerns, these politicians are still afraid of being eco-bullied by people like Elizabeth May, saying, they don't care about the planet, they don't care about the future, and therefore, what a lot of them do is they know the facts, but they're politically afraid to step out and say anything. In fact, if you look at world leaders in the last 20 years, the only world leader that dared to say that the science was nonsense was Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic.
Well, I think this is clearly an elitist agenda, and it suits their purpose, and at the expense of everyone else.
Well, there's no question about that if you can find something that's threatening the world and say, look, I can save the world, and if you don't want to go along with me, you don't care about the world. I tell people, look, the minute somebody says she will the planet or the children, now they're playing the emotional cards, and you know they're lying to you. But yeah, there is an elite group through the Club of Rome, and by the way, an important point about that is everybody says follow the money. The money is important to buy off the scientists and some of these people, to support you, but at the elite level, it's the power that it gives you. So they make a lot of money off of it, George Soros and all of these people, but it's really about the power.
One thing I was concerned about when listening to Elizabeth May was that she was talking about how we need to get off the internal combustion engine. Well, today I drove up to Sayward, which is north of Campbell River, and she was talking about how we should all get onto electric cars. Well, there's no electric car that can get me to Sayward and back on one charge. I was given the freedom of mobility to get all the way to the North Island and back in a day because of the internal combustion engine.
Well, of course, that was the whole point of and the theme that I kept pushing at today. That everything's been done to demonize CO2, to shut down the fossil fuel industry, and therefore shut down industry. And of course, once people are totally dependent on government for jobs and income, then you have control of them, and so that's certainly the case. But you notice she kept going on about electric cars, and I said, yeah, but people forget that the electricity that they plug into has got to come from somewhere. And by the way, there are very good studies show that the Prius actually is a bigger carbon footprint than a regular Honda Civic or something like that.
Because of all the damage caused by the mining and the extensive rare earth minerals and stuff that's involved in the manufacture of the Prius. Yeah.
And the cost of the batteries, and of course we haven't got around yet to the issue of what happens after 8 years, and you've got to get a whole new set of batteries, and what's going to happen with all of that. But the being tied down to a charging unit, it just simply doesn't work very well at all. And in fact, as I mentioned on the program, there has been no proper cost-benefit analysis done of any of these cars or any of the energies involved.
One thing that I'm noticing a lot about the carbon debate is that it is, like, Elizabeth May will deny that Agenda 21 is real, but it is alive and well, and part of this debate is to force us into cities. These electric cars, they can get you around to Saanich and back, to work and back, but like I said, I couldn't take a road trip with my family in an electric car, so... would you agree with me that Agenda 21 is alive and well, or do you think Elizabeth May is right that it was well-intentioned but has no standing in the world today, and it was just, it fizzled out?
Well, when you look at it on the surface, it's got all the piety. It sounds very good. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I used to give my students in a political geography class, I'd give them a constitution, and I said, look, I want you to read that, and we're going to talk about it in the next class. They would read it, and they'd all come back and say, fabulous, what a wonderful constitution that is. Every country should have a constitution like that. I said, yeah, it's the Constitution of the Soviet Union. Right? And they were absolutely stunned. Freedom isn't what you write on a piece of paper. No. Freedom is what people are allowed to do. The freedom to move, the freedom to make decisions for themselves. And of course, that's what these people are trying to restrict. Elizabeth May says Agenda 21 isn't compulsory, but it is effectively compulsory. Oh, yeah. But it's being very carefully implemented through those environment agencies in every country. If you look at what the EPA is doing, it's implementing Agenda 21.
You're aware of ICLEI, the organization ICLEI?
Yes.
Are you aware that they have a base in Victoria? They're based out of Saanich municipality. Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that.
Are you also aware that Saanich flies the United Nations flag?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, one of the things that's been going on in this province that a lot of people don't know is that the provincial government have been going around to different communities as part of the whole carbon tax and climate action plan for the province. And, for example, people on Main Island asked me to come over and talk to them because they'd had a visit from the government bureaucrats who showed them Al Gore's movie and then told them that they were seriously looking at not allowing any cars on any of the Gulf Islands at all. And so the gradual and draconian implementation of Agenda 21 down through these different levels of government. But that's why the whole climate action plan was introduced in British Columbia with the carbon tax. So it's just a gradual, insidious takeover on the basis that they're saving the planet and they're saving people from themselves.
So we do have another question from our viewers. Greg, can you read that out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, did the sun's forcing come up and the decline of sunspots causing record cold and the snow around the planet, or Mount Erebus causing Rothschild ice melt? Did that get any mention?
No, it didn't get any mention because we didn't. I tried to stay away from the detail. When you're talking to the general public like that, what you want to do is make 3 or 4 very fundamental, very simple, and easy to understand points, such as the one I mentioned earlier. You know, every single prediction they've made has been wrong, yet they still want you to believe them. But when you get down to the detail like that, Mount Erebus down in Antarctica, which, by the way, was part of the source of the chlorine that was increasing the so-called hole in the ozone over Antarctica. But the role of volcanoes, not just in the CO2 they're putting up, but also the CO2 that they're belching out into the oceans of the world and affecting the CO2 content of the oceans, and also the heat, the geothermal heat that is being added into the oceans through the crust of the Earth. But yeah, we didn't get into any of those details. But the point about that, of course, is that their focus on only CO2. Excluding all of these other multitude of factors that are involved in climate and climate change, it just further illustrates the point. And of course, it's the old Leninist Marxist trick that you pick one little point and you keep coming back to that until you got people so focused on one thing that you could completely destroy the rest of their argument and then can control what they understand.
So, Tim, we got time for about one more question, and then you'd be glad to come back on the show at a later date and answer more questions for our viewers?
And as you know, Josh, I'm happy to try and help people understand anytime.
Okay, so we got one last question for you before we have to let you go. Greg?
Sure.
So, Tim, this is Greg. I noticed near the end of the debate that Elizabeth interjected out of nowhere and brought up the East Anglia emails. And she was almost trying to proactively beat you to the punch there. And she had mentioned that she had read all of the emails. What was your take on what she said?
She didn't actually say she'd read all the emails. What she said she'd read was the 3 reports that were done on the email leaking. She made the point that they were hacked, they weren't leaked. Now that's a very, very important point. And Phil Jones, who's the director of CRU, the minute he discovered that the emails had gone, he called the police himself and said, "We've been hacked." Now the reason he did that was because under British law, if material is obtained by hacking, it cannot be used in a court. But if it's obtained by leak, by a whistleblower, it can be used in a court. So he had to establish that right away. The second thing is that he also caught himself with that because by saying that, he had to admit to the police that they were their emails. They were legitimate emails, which of course then when you looked at them, you could see all of the corruption that was involved. The 3 investigations that were set up were organized by a public relations firm that was headed by the guy that was involved in doing all of the hacking of telephones for the British newspapers. And they brought him in as to cover up right away. One of the investigations by Lord Oxburgh, and Lord Oxburgh owns a company that is into alternate energies and makes money off of saying CO2 is a problem. He chaired one of the hearings. In one of the other hearings, they appointed the editor of Nature magazine, which had published all of these corrupted articles. And when it was pointed out that he had a conflict of interest, he finally stepped down. So what she was saying was that she'd read all of those studies. But that's possible. I don't know. But I would be very surprised if she actually read the emails.
Okay, well, we have to wrap it up, Tim. We'd love to have you on the show again. I want to thank you for coming on our show. I want to thank all of our viewers for all of their questions. And hopefully sometime this year, maybe we can get together as We Are Change and put on another speaking event with you because we need much more time to understand this.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the more we can educate people, because they're exploiting not only people's ignorance, but people who are saying, look, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly understandable. And so this is what they're exploiting. When you've got somebody that will come on and with bald face and just say whatever they want to say,
that's a problem.
Mentioning no names, then you've got a problem.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Tim. We will be sure to have you back on.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very kindly. Thanks, Greg.
Take care, my friend.
Right, thank you.
All right.
Wow, that was awesome.
That was a huge interview.
Huge day. Huge day. Yeah.
Great questions from the viewers, and make sure that at home, if you're watching this, go to the We Are Change website, wearechange.victoria.org, and you can listen to the whole interview that we've got put up between Tim and Elizabeth May on local radio. So,
wow. Yeah, listening to the show today, he totally dominated the conversation. And you can also tell that the minds of the listeners is shifting to a majority viewpoint, that people think the climate
isn't a big deal anymore.
Well, no, what they were really saying is that climate change has become a religion in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
And that we are going to get taxed to the hill for it, and that we already are getting taxed.
They brought that up. A few different people brought it up, and Elizabeth May was really on the defensive about how it's not religion. She's Catholic, but that has nothing to do with it. No, it's the cult of climatology.
When you take something on faith and you begin to throw science out the window, that's pretty close to religion as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you have to be based on forensic evidence, not hearsay and conjecture.
Well, she pretty much started the debate saying how little she knew, and how that all of her information came from third parties, and how she was relying on other people's information, and that she was really not an expert. So, she didn't start well, and she ended in kind of this fluster of a fit, and again attacking Tim, and he just stayed calm, cool, and collected the whole time. He really won the debate in my eyes.
So I would definitely encourage our viewers to go to our website, wearechange.victoria.org, and listen to it for themselves. Don't take our words for it. Go listen to the whole thing. It's an hour of time well spent. Just like this show is an hour of time well spent,
Hear, hear.
Any final thoughts from our viewers online?
Well, they're talking about a couple of books that have been written about climate change being a waste of paper, and that's a real environmental issue. Her book is particularly, was Agenda 21 for Dummies? No, it was Climate Change for Dummies.
Yeah. So that's really nice of her to call people dummies and really dumb down the message.
That's not elitist.
No, that's not elitist. That's not throwing pearls before swine.
Right. Yeah. So.
Wow. So a big week. Awesome. I want to thank all of our viewers. I want to thank Paul, Adam, Jesse for running the show, Mark and Chance NBC for running the show, and tune in next week for another live episode of Freedom Free for All, and come down to Gorgeous Coffee on Sundays, 7 to 9/11. Until next time, my friends, be safe and be free.